Wow, it took me so long to make this video. So long that it turned into a Christmas special. Merry frickin' Christmas, guys! Woo! Anyway. Streets of Rogue is a top-down roguelite which has a big emphasis on choice, freedom, and anarchic fun. Kinda like America in real life if everyone just decided that they no longer cared about anything or anyone anymore. So what I'm trying to say is that Streets of Rogue will be taking place in real life in the very near future. It was developed by the one-man unit, Matt Dabrowski. Wait, is it really pronounced Matt Dabrowski? Because if it is, that'd be awesome.
Matt Dombrowski.
Aww. And it was also published by Tiny Build Studios. I don't really know if you've heard of them. They did a well-known game called Hello Neighbor. Not very popular, I know. You might not have heard of it. Kinda went under the radar for most people. Especially YouTubers. Pretty much nobody played it. It has some of the appeal like a game like GTA does, but with more pixelated graphics. Unless you're talking about some of the earlier GTA games and, Back I say! So I'll be going into why so many people love this game, including me, and breaking it down in a way that even I could understand. I usually put this one up first because graphics is something that's kinda hard to rate. I personally really like this kind of pixelated art. I think it's a really cool art medium, but it is understandable if you don't really like it like I do. Regardless, there was clearly a lot of effort put into making the sprites and assets that went into Streets of Rogue. All the character designs look really nice and unique, and the visual styles of all the levels are really cool to look at, which is kind of something you have to pass up on as you're trying to beat your way through each level. Ah, pixelated versus non-pixelated. Tale as old as time. Or at least as old as the 1990s, which, to be fair, was before I was born. And I guess everything is kind of made of pixels on the internet, if you think about it. So, maybe pixelated is the way of the future after all. You gotta go backwards to go forwards, right? Pretty sure Gandalf said that. Maybe it was Abraham Lincoln. Well, unfortunately, there is no good compilation of cannibal grunting sound effects on YouTube. It's a real shame, I know. Fortunately, someone has uploaded the entire OST onto YouTube, and oh my gosh, does it slap! Not to mention the one and only god who created this music, Craig Smith, had a sense of humor when making the names of these tracks. Like, did you know that the main theme, when you start up the game, is literally called Let's Get This Video Game Started? Or that there is a track called Number 1, Get a Libretto, Number 2, Gonna Make You Do Back-Breaking Labor, one that's actually just called Thwomp, yeah, like the Mario enemy, Do the Gorilla, and Groove is in the blood-pumping organ of an animate being. Oh, and of course, who could ever forget I'm too arousing for my turtleneck? Because, what the heck are naming schemes? But going past just, those naming schemes, the tracks are all so very synthy and electronic-y that they would put the sounds my microwave makes to shame and are more fire than Australian January. If you want some of the really good stuff, I would suggest looking at all the Dash 3 stages, which are in-game very hectic, as a random effect gets put into play on each one of those levels. And the music reflects that pretty well. Not to mention the fact that all particle effects are pretty smooth. I mean, I'm not just looking at them with a magnifying glass, but they look pretty decent. Hey, I know that you want to click off this video, but please just stick around for a little bit. This is my favorite comment from this video. You see this? This could have been you, but it wasn't. It wasn't. Because you didn't have the courage to comment on this video. I'm calling you out, all those people. I'm calling you out, my other 36 subscribers who aren't just directly me or my friends. I'm calling you out. Anyway, comment to be possibly shown off in the next video. Smashing something to pieces with a baseball bat? Beautiful. Reported by the local mafia and getting gunned down with a machine gun when he refused to pay up? Beautiful. dying to a bunch of cops because you just breathed in the mayor's general direction? You know what? No, I didn't even get near him. What the fuck? More effort got put into the story and characters than you would actually think. The canonical story is about a tyrannical mayor who put a ban on chicken nuggets, of all things, so people decided to create a rebellion. But I've gotta say, screw all this tax shiz. This is the best reason to start a revolution. We're getting those damn dino nuggies if it's the last thing I do. Now that's the kind of revenge anime I can get behind. Attack on Titan my ass. You are now an agent of said rebellion, with each reason being different depending on who you play as. They put on a front of not actually caring about the game, but it's quite clear that that's not really true at all. All the playable characters have official backstories. Oh, and also, have different stats, abilities, and traits, whatever. But they have official backstories. Lelouch who? Don't you mean Mr. Comedian whose only dedication is to make the entire world hear his jokes and that's literally it? Or how, like, the shopkeeper, quote, from the character description, is often known for being very critical of his fellow roguelike shopkeepers, referring to his contemporaries who set up shop in the middle of dungeons as frigging idiots with no common sense. Okay. Or that the backstories of the Blad Gangster and the Crepe Gangster, little on the nose there, man, have the exact same backstory but kind of flipped around. The Crepe saw his father being murdered by a man with a bad sunburn who he mistook for a Blad because the color of the Blad's gang is red. And the Blad Gangster saw his father being killed by a man who found a vat of blueberries who he mistook for a Crepe, which their gang color is blue. Then you could always make your own characters, or rather affronts to nature. I still have nightmares about this thing I've created. I'm not proud of it. Not to mention the fact that this game has multiple endings. It has 4. It has 4 endings. It has a bad ending. This is a game in which it is canonical that people, quote, say that if you find a Bigfoot and beat it open piñata style, its insides will be filled with treasure. This is the game we're talking about. And it has a bad ending. Why? What are you doing? Also, Streets of Rogue can be replayed over and over again, and not just because it's a video game. It also canonically repeats over and over again. And when you replay it, it's canonical as well. As when you beat the mayor, you later become the mayor, who gets corrupted by, quote, money and bacon cheeseburgers, and so you become the next target of the rebellion, thus creating an endlessly vicious cycle of violence, victory, and defeat, while clearly showing the player that Streets of Rogue is a metaphor for purgatory, limbo, or the Rick and Morty fandom. So I'll give it to you straight. Obviously this game is pretty difficult. You could go through it way too fast if you didn't have to restart over and over again to win. Theoretically, you could open up the game and beat it under a solid 20 minutes, as per the world record, but that is highly unlikely. The difficulty of this game is high, but the game is short. Plus, in this game you can build shortcuts to later levels, which can actually be pretty useful considering a lot of the characters' starting items are pretty solid and you don't need that much more stuff to start at later levels and still be pretty good off. I mean, it's fun trying to beat the game, the way it's meant to be played, but sometimes I just want to start downtown and try to duke it out with the local gangsters. That usually doesn't go well, but it's still pretty fun. Some people can find this game endlessly frustrating because of the playstyle, and for the fact that it actually requires skill. But I'm kind of a sucker for these try again style games. I can understand the frustration, but fear not, my friends. This game can be played with up to 4 different people. Well, you included. So if the game is too hard, you can just get one of your friends to play with you. Too bad because of quarantine, you can't actually meet up with them. So too bad you can't actually play with them on local co-op. And you can't actually play with those friends because they don't actually exist. Like Spelunky, this game has a good amount of replay value, but unlike Spelunky, that doesn't have to be interpreted for that to actually be true. Despite the fact that this game has multiple endings, you're going to have to replay this game at least a few times to unlock all the shortcuts and our new traits. The randomly generated part, as with Spelunky, helps the game feel new every time you play, If you really wanted to do everything this game has to offer you, you have to beat the game with every character. Not to mention to do their big quest as well, which is an optional side quest pertaining to their backstory. Like how the gangsters want to kill each other to protect their turf, or how the gorilla wants to liberate his fellow people to rise up against the maniacal scientist society, which is funded by the government. Wow, okay. This is clearly Matt Dabrowski showing us that simple people in the working class must eventually resort to violence to overthrow the bourgeoisie and establish a long-lasting and effective government through the use of communism and free ourselves from capitalist oppression. Hey, I would like to thank you for getting this far in the video. It really means a lot to me, and I know a lot of YouTubers say that, but trust me, as a very small content creator, every little bit counts. Anyway, here's a little fact reward for getting to the end of this video, or at least almost the way to the end. Did you know that the last recorded execution by firing squad was actually the exact date, yes, the exact date when Toy Story 3 released? And it's even still legal in some states. But why would you do that unless they're specifically out of the lethal injection drug? But hey, you do you. What I'm trying to say is that Streets of Rogue is a good game. It's fun, you can play with your friends, and it'll hopefully provide a decent amount of quality gaming time for you. But most importantly, it distracts you from the fact that you will never, ever get 100% on Spelunky 2. And that Marxism is the ultimate form of socioeconomic